welcome back to the Gears and Tool channel. Today we are reviewing the Leatherman Raptor, and this is a really cool pair of multifunction shears. I got the red pair, and these scissors are really aimed at like the first responders, emergency service personnel, stuff like that. And there's a couple features that I really like about these scissors. I initially wasn't going to pick these up from Leatherman, even though I've reviewed almost all their products here, because I was kind of telling myself I didn't need another pair of scissors like this. But you know, these really don't fall into the same category as a pair of crafting scissors like this. And we're going to kind of dive into those reasons right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at the carry methods, the size and weight, and then we'll kind of get into the functionality. All right, so the Raptor has 3 different methods of carry. The first is with the include pocket clip, which I'm really glad Leatherman put the pocket clip on here. A lot of multi-tools don't have pocket clips, so I'm glad to see that this pair of scissors does. Then you have this nice holster that they just snap right into. It's a really secure holster. It's not going to fall out or anything like that, which is great because if you're a first responder responding to an emergency, you might be crawling over vehicles or, you know, just kind of not in a normal position. So the fact that these are really secure and they don't want to fall out of the sheath is excellent. And there's also a third way to carry these scissors, which I thought was pretty clever on Leatherman's part. So, you know, let's say you get to the scene, you pull these out, you open them up and you're working on somebody, you can insert them into the holster without actually collapsing them back down. And again, they click right into place, so they won't fall out or anything like that. So really well thought out carry methods for the Leatherman Raptor. So I'm really impressed with that. In addition to the holster being pretty well thought out as far as, you know, how the tool goes in, the holster is ambidextrous, so you can take the clips off this side and put it on this side. And it's also compatible with MOLLE. So if you have like a plate carrier or your pack just has some MOLLE webbing on it, this holster will interface with that really nicely. So A+ on the holster, Leatherman. You did a really good job on this. I'm quite impressed. All right, so that's all the carry methods of the Leatherman Raptor. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the size and weight. So the Leatherman Raptor is, when closed, 5 inches long, 2 inches wide, and 3/4 inches thick. So a pretty compact design, especially considering scissors are usually quite long and kind of awkward. So a really sleek, compact design. I really like the final form factor that they came up with. The weight of these without the holster is 5.4 ounces. And if you include the holster, the total package weighs 7.3 ounces. So really no heavier than a standard multi-tool. So a really good kind of size and weight. And again, Leatherman's been doing this for a while. They kind of know that comfortable size that they need to be targeting their design towards. So really good job there. Now, when we open these things up, they get quite a bit bigger. So when the Leatherman Raptor is fully open or deployed, it is about 8 inches long and about 2 inches tall. So it basically doubles in width and is almost a full 3 inches longer than it is when it's in its closed configuration. So these are definitely a lot smaller when they're folded up. So a really clever design. I'm, again, really impressed with this design. To fold them up, they have these 2 buttons here. They're just these kind of interesting spring-loaded triangle buttons. They're pretty smooth. They don't want to catch on anything. But, you know, you just push the button down, and they fold right up. So closing the tool back up, let's take a look at the exterior features, and then we'll kind of take a closer look at the shears themselves. So on the back, we have a really nice carbide glass breaker, which makes a lot of sense for a first responder's tool. I haven't personally used it, but you know, glass breakers are glass breakers. They all work pretty well. You have the lanyard loop, which is pretty nice if you want to put a piece of paracord or something on there, so it's easy to find in your pack. That's a nice little feature. And then on the pivot here, we have a nice strap cutter, which is a really wicked looking strap cutter. It's kind of like a raptor's claw. Maybe that's where the name comes from. But I'm really impressed with this strap cutter. A lot of multi-tools have really small strap cutters. Let's just pick on the Leatherman Charge here for a second. I mean, this hook doesn't even compare to the Raptor's hook. And I haven't really found the Leatherman Charge's hook to be super useful for me. But this one, no question, is going to be super functional. It's a liner lock, so it's not going to collapse on you or anything like that, which is great. Also on the Raptor's claw, you have a cutout for an oxygen wrench. And I'm going to be first to admit, guys, I'm not a first responder, I'm not an EMT, I'm not a nurse, I'm not around that kind of equipment very often. It's really well placed, it's on the outside of the tool, so it's easy to get to, and it doesn't inhibit the function of the tool in any way, so I'm glad it's there. Something else that's really cool about the strap cutter is it works in the open configuration as well. You don't have to fold the tool back up just to get to the strap cutter. So, you know, you just do a quick draw cut like that, it's going to work great. So Leatherman really thought this design out. You can tell things like the strap cutter work in both the folded and open position. The holster works in both the folded and open position. So Leatherman was really thinking about the different ways that people would be using these, and they made sure that it was going to be convenient to use no matter what the situation was. So I really think that this is probably one of my favorite designs from Leatherman. It's just very well thought out. All right, so that's all the outside tools. Let's go ahead and open it up and take a look at the 2 features on the inside. So before we get into the shears themselves, because I have some demonstration testing I want to do, I am going to point out that there's a ring cutter on the back of the tool here. Now it's not a huge ring cutter. It's probably not going to be cutting off a full-size men's ring. And if it's like a carbide ring or a tungsten ring or something like that, it might struggle. But for a smaller ring, like a wedding ring or something like that, you can just slip these over the person's finger and snip, away you go. I do know that most ambulances and stuff like that carry kind of like a ring grinder in there, so this might not be used that frequently, but in a pinch, you do have that option. So that's kind of a clever little feature. And look how thick these things are, guys. That ring cutter is going to be like a pair of wire cutters. It's going to work great. I mean, these things, let me grab my other pair of scissors. So I went ahead and grabbed my other pair of scissors here, and you can just see just how much thicker the Leatherman Raptor's shears are. I mean, they are visibly much thicker in every way compared to these standard crafting shears. Not only are these shears thicker than your standard crafting scissors, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but this whole bottom rail is kind of got like those micro cuts. They're like micro serrations basically, which is going to really help it grab fabrics and stuff like that. So when you're using these shears, things aren't going to want to slip out the end. It's going to really bite into whatever you're trying to cut. The top is smooth, which makes a lot of sense because when you're cutting, that's going to be kind of a sliding edge. But the bottom kind of has these micro serrations on there, and it's going to make these scissors much more effective, especially on wet or slippery materials. Okay, so now that we've reviewed the 6 primary functions that the Leatherman Raptor offers, let's go ahead and put it through its paces. I grabbed a few things from the garage, and we're going to really put this thing to the test. The first up is just cardboard. This is just from like a standard Amazon box or something like that. So let's go ahead and just try them out here, and as you can see, no problem. It's not even sweating. And let's go ahead and fold it. And even folded, it just cuts right through. And granted, I know that crafting shears will probably do something similar, but the ease that these things cut through is kind of hard to explain. It's just, not even a challenge for these scissors. So let's go ahead and try something a little bit harder. Okay, so I went ahead and grabbed a couple of zip ties here, and let's just go ahead and give it a try. No problem. So zip ties are no contest for the Raptor. Let's go ahead and step it up to something a little bit harder. I went ahead and grabbed some rope, and this is kind of inexpensive rope because I didn't want to be cutting up my good rope, but this is what I use for knife sharpness testing. But, a lot thicker. It's not, real hard necessarily, but it's a much thicker piece of material for the shears to cut through. And as you can see, no problem. These shears, they do a really good job. A lot of scissors, they're going to kind of want to separate the pieces here when you're cutting through, and that's where the thicker materials are going to give a lot of other scissors a challenge. So these are really doing a good job. I'm pretty impressed. So again, this is not an easy test for a pair of scissors, and the Leatherman Raptor did a great job. No complaints. Next up, I have this white towel. It's a pretty heavy towel. I use this out in the shop for cleaning up spills and stuff. Let's go ahead and see how the Raptor does on this. I think this is a good test because, really a lot of emergency responders are going to use this to cut people's like pant legs and stuff like that off if they need to get to an injury. So this is a really thick material. It's going to be pretty similar to someone's coat or a pair of jeans or something like that. So let's just go ahead and start here on the lower edge, and you can see no problem. Yes, that was very effective. And something I noticed as I'm cutting through this bottom piece of metal here is kind of like serrated. It's got like a bunch of micro cuts in it. So when I put it under, something like fabric, it really grabs, which means the, cloth or whatever you're trying to cut isn't just going to slip out as you're cutting it, making the scissors much more effective. Okay, so clearly not even a challenge for the Raptor. Let's try something a little bit harder. All right, guys, so I'm running out of options of things to try and cut. So I just recently had a generator transfer switch installed in my garage. And when we were doing it, we had some of the 16 gauge wire left over. So let's go ahead and see if these will cut this. And keep in mind, the original Leatherman Wave was made of 420 HC steel, which is the same thing that these shears are made from. So theoretically, they should work just as good as a pair of wire cutters on like the Surge or the Leatherman Wave. So put this in there and no problem. Literally, guys, you have a pair of wire cutters in your pocket. Not even close. So, it can cut wire, which, most scissors can't. What else can we try? Well, I have some of this thicker wire. It's kind of a 10 gauge type wire. And you can see here just how much thicker this wire is compared to the 16 gauge wire. I wouldn't normally recommend cutting something this thick with a pair of scissors, but these are the Raptors. I think we can do it. No problem, guys. It's a little bit harder to squeeze down on it, but it's you basically have a pair of TIN SNIPS here, guys. Anything a pair of TIN SNIPS can do, this can do it too. All right guys, so that was my quick overview of the functions of the Leatherman Raptor, and I have to say I'm really impressed with this tool. It's got 6 primary functions. You have the glass breaker, the seatbelt cutter, the oxygen wrench tank, the shears, and the ring cutter, which is really all you need in most first responder type situations. You just need to get in there and help somebody. So really well designed. I like that a lot of the features work in both the closed and open configuration. You can tell that Leatherman didn't just slap this together. They really thought through how people are going to be using this and make sure that it worked for every situation. All right guys, so thanks for watching today. Just a quick announcement, I have started a website, so I have a link for that in the description below and in the top of the screen. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about tools like the Leatherman Raptor, any other multi-tools I've done in the past, or some of the other projects around the compound, such as the generator transfer switch I referenced earlier, definitely hit that subscribe button, go check out my website. I have a lot of cool stuff going on. So again, thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that like button. It helps the YouTube algorithm. And if you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button so you get more videos just like this one in the future. Cheers.